Sami Zayn has been caught in 8K. That's double the amount of 4K.
So just before we went live.
You don't need to tell people this.
Before we went live, they're like, well, okay, what do we call this show? And I read out the title of it, and I said, I was going to call it Caught in 4K. And I nearly had that on the thumbnail as well. So you thought you would up the ante a little bit.
I took your idea and made it better. That's all I did.
Doubled it.
I'm Ollie Davis. I'm joined by Luco in DAD. Welcome to the Monday Night Raw review podcast on the WrestleTalk podcast channel. If you haven't already, please press the thumbs up button, give us a subscribe, leave a comment down below with what you thought of this episode, and send in your chat gables to WrestleTalk.com/support while we talk about the show-length narrative of the Usos getting back together, potentially bringing the third Usi in, Sami Zayn, not any of the million others. And then there is an implied betrayal, but maybe it's crossed wires.
I would imagine it is crossed wires, but I
don't, it's pretty incriminating, though.
I did see him.
Yeah.
For a story, Roman made his return at SummerSlam. And they have been really slowly building this story of the OG bloodline getting back together. Is it just me, or has it been on fast forward for the last 2 weeks? It feels like within 3 weeks we have gone from Jey to be I'm not getting involved, to throwing up the wands alongside Roman Reigns on this Friday SmackDown. It feels like... I said to Dave Bradshaw in the office, it feels like they didn't know November was next month. And we're like, oh, Survivor Series, we got to... We need to rattle through this. And then Dave said to me, he was like, no, it's the Saudi Prince. He wanted the original Bloodline back together. And I was like, and that's why it feels so quick. Yeah. But I don't know if it's just me, but it feels like the last few weeks have been really on fast forward with with how slow this build has been.
Yes. And also a little bit no, because this is probably the pace of a normal wrestling story where you get a development every... Raw, SmackDown.
Yeah.
This is the speed of which wrestling storylines used to progress in the Attitude Era.
Used to progress. That would be my point. Is that you look at the tease of the split of A-Town Down Under. Mm-hmm.
Well, that feels different. That feels like a storyline they've just put that to one side for the meantime.
Or the split of the Powerbuff Girls. Or the split of the original Bloodline, in fact, before the Bloodline originally split up. It was really week to week. It was slow, incremental changes. This one, it feels, and I like it, by the way, and I'm not downplaying it, because I thought the segment we had here, the Sami reveal, I thought was great at the end of the show. It was a real good hook and tease for Crown Jewel. So I think it's really good. It has surprised me how quickly it feels like we have gone from Jey going, no, yeet, to then just being back on side with them all.
I mean, the bit that I feel that's got lost in the speed shuffle is Bron Breakker beat him for the Intercontinental Championship last week. I don't feel like that was really brought up on this episode.
Well, like all things within Bloodline storylines, they're the least important part of this.
Well, let's say what happened. Let's do a brief recap. So it opened with Jey Uso. He's with the kids and the stuff in the stands.
He's going through all of this family drama. He's just lost his Intercontinental title. Look, pleased as punch to be out there. Yeah. He looked so thrilled to be on this episode of Raw.
And I was like, surely he's going to talk about the IC title in the ring. No. But he yeeted his way down. It was just him. And then he talks about how, he brings Jimmy down to the ring. And I finally got what yeet is. Well, I think I kind of got what yeet is. It's an encouraging what?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeet. And then I say this. Yeet. Mm-hmm. And then I say that. Yeet. And sometimes I'm Jey Uso, so I stumble over my words and I don't know what I'm... Jimmy, come out here, please. Yeet.
This is what the second promo in about 4 weeks where it feels like he has forgotten all of his lines. He gets so I wonder if it's the adrenaline of having so many people be so into you and joining in with your things as you're making your very, very cool entrance. Do you get down there and you're sort of like, oh, I haven't thought about what I'm supposed to say. Yeah. And I sort of get caught up in the moments.
So Jimmy comes down and they're talking about how they reunited on SmackDown. We got a recap video of that as well. And Jey says, look, if we're going to do this again, where we're back together with Roman, we're not anyone's sidekicks.
Nice.
We're not anyone's seconds. I'm Jey Uso. You're Jimmy Uso. We are the Usos. Sort of saying we're going to be equals with Roman Reigns.
Yeah. They had that line of like, previously, people just sort of saw us as the Usos. They saw us as twins. But now everyone knows you are Jimmy, I am Jey.
I am Jey Uso, and you are my brother. That's what everyone sees now. I didn't know about the spoiler for SmackDown, but you spoiled that for me today, so thank you.
You're welcome.
But
I am sorry.
And to your point of it feels like they rushed through this a fair bit. I feel like there would have been a couple of weeks of Roman, Jey, and Jimmy awkwardness.
Well, that's what I thought they were going to do that once he returned at SummerSlam.
Yeah. Because
they've done it all in 3 weeks.
Especially because that's a pretty big thing for Roman to get used to. Where like, okay, I thought we were all going to get back together and you were going to acknowledge me, but you're not. Now we're acknowledging each other.
Well, he is a baby face now.
Yeah, but what I've liked about Triple H's era is they really let character development happen. It's not just I'm a heel this week, and with no real proper explanation. You're seeing a slow burn shift of people's feelings towards each other, or characters' feelings towards each other, change.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's a really interesting bit there, that Jimmy and Jey are good. Like, Jay's whole reasoning for coming back in, he's like, this is what I want to happen, is that they're going to be equals now. It's totally different to what the Bloodline was, where it was all about, we're not equals. There's a very clear hierarchical structure. But it's all okay.
Yeah. I also think as well, like, I apologize for the SmackDown thing. They have announced the match already. They announced the match on social media. They're doing it.
I don't really care.
Okay. Good. I'm glad, because I did feel guilty. Because they're doing a trios match at Crown Jewel, which they announced after Raw. It is OG Bloodline versus New Bloodline at Crown Jewel. Roman and the Usos versus. The graphics suggest that it's Solo, Jacob, and Tama Tonga, but you pointed out in our predictions video, which will be going live tomorrow, that there may be some travel issues for Jacob Fatu, so maybe they can put Tonga lower in there instead.
I mean, no one's really reported this, but it does seem like whenever they do an international show, WWE advertise all 4 members of New Blood for a 3-person match.
Yes.
And my theory is, Jacob Fatu was in prison, and that means it's difficult to travel to other countries.
Could be. I mean, here's me hoping he's going to be on the show and he pins Roman Reigns, and that sweet, sweet £10 can come my way. So that's the match that's coming this week. I think that there's a bit of a missed opportunity somewhat in this original Bloodline getting back together. Like, Jey is more or less just forgiving Jimmy for everything that happens without really acknowledging what had happened.
Well, he says in this, he's like, hey, we've got stuff to work through. And then, that's it.
Yeah, and now he's worked through it.
By the end of the night.
We're now on the set. I mean, he said we've got to work through it, but I saw you hugging on SmackDown.
Yes.
It feels like you have worked through a lot of your grievances already. So I'm surprised at how quickly this is moving, but I think that is because, A, we're getting to Crown Jewel this weekend, but B, the focus is now going to be on the Sami stuff and getting Sami back into the fold as we head towards Survivor Series and War Games. Because that's the reported plans. What we've all assumed was going to be the case since WrestleMania this year really was. The Survivor Series main event will be OG Bloodline versus New Bloods. And on this show, they had a really good segment where Sami Zayn was almost the Kevin Owens of Raw.
Well, just before that, the Tongans...
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah.
So Jey and Jimmy, they have that in-ring bit. Jimmy sets up a meeting between them all and Roman on SmackDown to, make sure everything's okay between them. And that's when the Tongans and Jacob Fatu attack, and Solo Sikoa's there as well. They put a chair around Jay's head, and I thought, oh, okay, we're going to get the heat on them and the yeet. And the new blood are going to look good and strong here. And then I think it's Jey just wallops a chair at Jacob Fatu. That looked good.
Yeah.
I mean, in a dangerous way. And then the two Usos chased off the 4 New Blood members.
Yeah, I've written here, Bloodline attack. It's okay, though, the Usos send them packing despite being outnumbered 4-2.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Usual new blood booking.
WWE is a company that is rich with baby faces at the moment, and very over baby faces in Roman, Cody, the Usos. I think they are heel weak in that there are no credible heels in WWE outside of Kevin Owens, I would say. And Bron Breakker is sort of like, he straddles the line of being a babyface and or
Bronson
a heel.
Reed?
I suppose, I might give you Bronson.
I feel like they do have good heels, but WWE it doesn't feel like WWE are booking strongly booked heels against strongly booked faces.
Yeah, with the exception of maybe Bronson Reed, because Bronson and Seth feels like that is quite an evenly matched thing. But I think it only struck me on this show because you had this opening segment here where OG Bloodline, despite being at a numbers disadvantage, quite easily take out 4 members of the heel faction. And the main event of this show saw one guy take out like 8 members of the Judgment Day all on his own with absolute ease. That I was like, there are no like credible heels in this company.
Later on, like you said, Jey and Jimmy are walking backstage and they walk past Sami Zayn. And Jimmy gets a bit in Sami's face and Sami's like, I want to talk to Jey alone. And Jimmy walks off. And Sami says to Jey, look, you don't have to go back to these guys. They were awful to you.
You said 2 weeks ago you weren't.
You don't have to choose the new guys who are also horrible. You left all these people. You don't have to make a decision. I don't understand why you're doing it. And Jey says, you wouldn't understand because you're not family.
Ouch. The honorary use.
And it was so ouch that Jimmy and Jey are backstage in their locker room later on after that. And Jey goes, I feel bad for saying that to Sami.
Yeah. And Jimmy's like, yeah, but you're right, though.
Yeah.
He's not family. And Jay's like, well, you can't say that about him. Like, that's not fair.
He was there for me when you left.
Exactly. Like, Jey is incredibly conflicted in all of this. He knows it is right for him to get involved in this family. That's why I loved that SmackDown segment where he was like pleading with Soda, being like, I don't know why you've done this. There's a reason why we never got in touch with the Guerrillas of Destiny. There's definitely a reason why we never brought him in. And he knows that he needs to get involved and he needs to set Solo straight and kind of get the house back in order. But he also knows that Sami is right. He doesn't need to get involved because he's putting all of this behind him. And by putting it all behind him, led him to becoming the Intercontinental Champion for, a cup of coffee. So I think Jey is really fascinating within this. And then the final segment we got later on is even better because it's like someone getting into Jey's head again, because Jimmy is leaving the building and he says, oh, have you seen Jey? And he's like, oh yeah, he's just up there. Jimmy walks up and sees something. He goes like, oh, knew it. And then Jey walks up and Jimmy's like, shh, points up there with a knowing eye. And the far background is Sami Zayn talking with Solo Sikoa.
Mm-hmm.
And it pans back and Jimmy's like, told you, we can't trust him.
Yeah.
It's got to be within the family.
Yeah. What do you think Sami could be talking to Solo about? Let's give him the benefit of the doubt.
Absolutely, which I think we should do.
That Sami is on Jey's side still.
He's
not gone full Kevin Owens.
Yeah, he's not. Leave Jey alone.
Mm.
Don't try to keep Jey away from this. Basically take this back to SmackDown.
Yeah.
You don't need to come around to Raw anymore. There's a brand split. You are assigned to the SmackDown brand. Stick around over there and leave us on our little Raw island.
And what's the bad faith version?
He's like,
we got him, boys.
I'm not in a faction anymore. Can I be in yours?
That would be pretty funny, though. If old school heel Sami, who joined the original Bloodline, did the whole same storyline with me.
And then
like
he does
him with Jacob Fatu.
I was going to say him doing the hand thing with Jacob Fatu.
Tonga Loa botching the handshake.
I think it is, Sami pleading with Solo to keep your business elsewhere and let Jey just be on his own island at his own little main eventer.
It's really well crafted, though.
Very well crafted.
Because you can see everyone's side of the situation and what might just be misunderstandings.
Mm-hmm.
And Jey doesn't feel like a dumb baby face. Doesn't feel like someone who's being too hot-headed. He's in a pretty tough situation of the family who betrayed him, another part of his family who've gone crazy and have also betrayed him now, and his sort of chosen family with Sami, who hasn't betrayed him ever.
He's the one who's always on his side.
Yeah. So it's I can see how that's screwing with Jey's head, and I can see how he would be, not making the best decisions because of all the emotions surrounding him.
Mm.
So really, really well done.
Really well done.
Let's see what people think on the chat gables.
I should highlight as well, there are top-level heels in WWE. Drew.
Yeah. Where is he, though?
Well, he's selling Hell in a Cell. Gunther is the World Heavyweight Champion. I'm not saying there's no good heels. I'm saying on this show it felt like there were no good heels.
Well, all the heel factions that should be big threats are just easily beaten.
They're dweebs.
That's the problem. Matt Hennessy says in a big chat, thank you very much for your very generous donation. Is Sami joining Solo? No. But understandably, he can't forgive Jimmy or Roman. Jimmy brought Sami into the bloodline, but never stood up for him. And when the fans acknowledged Sami more than Roman, his insecurities came out by abusing Sami emotionally as well as physically. Roman abused not only Sami, but also his two best friends in KO and Jey Uso. He's not blood. It's understandable he can't forgive Roman or Jimmy. I think he probably asked Solo to leave Jey alone, because Zayn and Jey are kindred spirits. Sami and Jey's roles are reversed. Last year, when Jey came to Raw, Sami had to convince Cody, Kevin and Seth to trust him. He also had to convince Jey to trust them. Now this year, Jey will have to convince Jimmy and Roman to trust Sami, and also convince Sami to trust them. That is excellent storytelling. That is very good. Jimmy and Roman blamed Sami for Jey leaving the bloodline when it was Roman's abusive behaviour and Sami leaving it that gave Jey the strength to walk away later on. I think what really excites me is how KO reacts when Sami helps Roman.
That's the bit that I was going to mention earlier. That's the bit that kind of gets me really into this, because Kevin Owens' whole downward spiral has been with Cody teaming with Roman. So what's he going to do when his best friend teams with Roman again?
Maybe it's not something we see for a long time. And they come face to face in the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
And Roman's there. And Owens is going to hit Roman. Sami stops the fist.
The more I think about it, the more I'm to spoil us for tomorrow's predictions video. I think Sami does help OG Bloodline win at Crown Jewel.
One thing I appreciate about Triple H's booking is how he's a stickler for people's past actions. Jey coming to Raw led to Drew's heel turn, and his actions and his reasons were understandable. Cody teaming with Roman pushes KO to turn. In KO's mind, his three best friends, Cody, Randy and Sami, chose Roman over him. His reasoning for turning makes sense, even if his actions cross a line. Cody teamed with Roman, Randy stopped KO attacking Cody, and Sami going to go back to a group KO spends months trying to get Sami away from. Cameron A. was in Hershey last night. Eated for about 7 minutes to open the show. Seats on the hardcam side close enough to feel Seth burn it down. The Sami Solo wrinkle is interesting, but the whole OTC Bloodline reunion seems rushed. Hashtag feeling oozy yet. Support WrestleTalk.
I mean, that is kind of what I think is nicely doubled with Matt's chat there, is this is a really well detailed and well laid out story, and all of the Bloodline stuff has been for the most part. Certainly I would say since the Sami Zayn era of the Bloodline storyline has been very well laid out and kind of meticulously put together, which is why this idea that it feels very rushed now in these last 2 weeks feels very counter to everything else that they've done.
It's Game of Thrones Series 7. Eternal Blue 40-month member. Silly little want on my end. I sure hope they bring back the CFO Money Usos theme at their next match. Less Def Rebel, good music again. Also, 40 is a lot. Yeah, 40 months.
Sorry, yeah.
3 and a bit years, thank you.
Crikey.
Kazoo. I went to SmackDown's taping on Friday, so it's kind of funny to me they announced the match before then, and we finally got a 7-match card on a non-Big 4 PLE. Huzzah! Sami brings much-needed depth to the bloodline, especially for how Kevin reacts.
There you go. That's the Saudi money right there. Saudi money buys you 2 extra matches on a pay-per-view.
And finally, for now, Real Double J says, getting ahead of myself, typical armchair booking, but interested to see if Sami being brought into an OG versus new bloodline at Survivor Series causes KO to join Solo to save his friend from Roman's hypocrisy like he did nearly 2 years ago. A Dark Mirror version.
I don't think I want to see KO on the side of new bloodline.
But a KO Jacob Fatu tag team.
Well, I think I'm more interested in Kevin versus Jacob.
Maybe he doesn't join New Blood because New Blood seemed very sort of insular. But he is an associate of.
Like Drew was last year with the Judgment
Day. Yeah.
I even then, I think Kevin as a character wouldn't want to associate himself, even if he's doing it for the greater good of saving Sami. I think character-wise, KO is on his own in there and wouldn't even have his moral compass would not allow him to tag with Solo.
It's an interesting idea, though, just to take it a bit further. We think Cody versus KO is happening at Saturday night's main event. Although I've also heard Gunther Punk might be them.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's probably going to be a pretty big show.
Yeah.
They'll probably have both of the world titles on the line.
But maybe a way to build that then is, you've got one side of Roman, Jimmy, Jey, Sami and Cody versus KO and New Blood.
And The Rock.
It's too many guys.
There's
6 on 5.
Yeah, you put Bron in there. Bron teams with Jey. He had respect for him a couple of weeks back. Lastly here, Rooster Libra, who has been a member for 36 months in a row, said, I think Sami sides with OG Bloodline and Owens sides with the New Blood. He hates Roman that much.
But in Owens' mind, it's justified. It's quite a good... I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Please keep sending your chat gables to WrestleTalk.com/support or read out every single one over $5 US. And also go to Patreon.com/WrestleTalk because we've got loads of exclusive content over there, like our latest episode of the TNA Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe series.
Goes live tomorrow, in fact. It is our review of TNA Final Resolution 2007, a 4.5 hour podcast. An hour of which I think is just us talking about the VKM segments.
I don't know how we spent... Well, we did pretty much watch all of the Kevin Nash...
That's true.
Paparazzi Championship Series segments.
Yeah, we watched a lot of that. Despite the fact that the series is really about Samoa Joe versus Kurt Angle, we spend way more time talking about
Kevin Nash,
the Motor City Machine Guns.
Adrenaline Rush. Right, so patreon.com/WrestleTalk. You can watch that and loads more over there. So this episode from Hershey, Canada, starts with a bunch of people arriving. There's the gaudy belt. Never saw it again on the episode.
It's just to let you know it's there. It's Chekhov's belt.
We got a recap of the Jey Uso Bron Breakker title loss from the previous week, and then we got the Jimmy and Jey segment. We cut backstage. Adam Pearce is angry on the phone to Nick Aldis.
Yeah, I told you, man. GM versus GM.
Yeah, he says, look, we only agreed that Jimmy was allowed to come here, but the whole of New Blood attacking my boys.
Not that it hurt, because because Jey won. And he's like, you need to get control of your roster.
Is Nick Aldis responsible for them on other days of the week outside of Friday?
He's their boss.
I feel like it's Adam Pearce's problem.
You're always blaming Adam Pearce for things.
Well, last week we bought tickets.
Yeah.
Adam Pearce could have shut that down, but fair enough. Okay, it's happened. Pearce should know this could be an issue. Get some more security.
Always blaming Adam Pearce. You're always taking Nick Aldis' side.
How many dangerous backstage brawls are there on SmackDown?
He is dealing with Seth and Bron. He's like, that's where security's at. Not that they're doing a pretty good job there either, but he's got a lot on his plate. He doesn't need Nick Aldis sending guys to Raw.
Nick Aldis didn't send the guys?
I didn't say that. You said that. Those are your words.
All I know is he needs a drink. He's got a drinking problem. Judgment Day walk up to him and they...
It's all right. We've got a mystery later on in the show. Last week they announced it's Dominik Mysterio versus a former world champion. It's top of the show. Dominik Mysterio versus a former world champion. Oh, that'll be a big tease for the rest of the night.
Adam Pearce just says, it's going to be Damien Priest.
I was like, why didn't you just say it was Damien Priest last week?
Do you think that I wrote it here as well. The way I would have done it is just you build it up, who's it going to be, and then Damien Priest comes out. Oh no,
that's what I thought they were going to do.
Him.
Yeah,
but maybe they thought it's not going to be a good enough pop.
I thought it was Damien Priest. I said that last week. I assumed it was going to be Damien Priest.
Should have been Goldberg.
It can't be Goldberg. He's not a former World Heavyweight Champion in this version of the World Heavyweight Championship, which WWE...
They didn't say that specifically. They just said a former World Heavyweight Champion.
They say what they mean by that is it's either Priest, Seth, or Drew.
Or Goldberg.
That's a different belt.
But then that actually ties in quite nicely with Goldberg beating Dom and sets up a Gunther match.
I think it sets up him versus Carlito.
Carlito, I thought, was very quiet in the back of the shop. Did you notice this?
Barely there.
Yeah, but he was really... Obviously, he's got a storyline where the rest of the Judgment Day are going to get annoyed with him and they're going to kick him out. And that was really heavily pushed last week. But Carlito got a bit too excited. Singles push for this guy. I'm going to ad-lib. I'm going to do a bit of crowd work improv. And he accidentally said something that got a lot of people upset.
Yeah, sure did.
So I feel like Carlito in this shot, he's behind. He couldn't be more in the back, but his face is still visible. He's trying to sell that storyline he wants to do just with his face.
Yeah.
But no one is going to let that guy talk.
In fairness, he was not the focus of this segment because this segment was about three things. Announcing Damien Priest as the Dominik match for later on. Dominik being like, why didn't you guys believe me? And Finn getting annoyed that Dom's getting a match with Damien Priest that he could potentially win.
Yeah, because Finn stormed off after this. Didn't see him for the rest of the night.
No. And I think that's why he didn't help later on, is because we can tell a story of, well, you couldn't beat Damien Priest.
Yeah.
But I could.
That's fun. But I also think...
which sets up Finn versus Priest again.
Everything last week was building for at least Raquel here to go, this is all your fault, Carlito. And Carlito's like...
Yeah. No, you're right.
But they're like, no. We're going to cool that off for a bit. Sheamus took on Ludwig Kaiser. I liked it. The crowd didn't care.
No, it wasn't a hot crowd for anything that was wrestling. But I really enjoyed this. I tell you what, though,
it was good.
Lillian Garcia introducing Sheamus for a match did give me like Vietnam flashbacks to really naff WWE. But this was like, I thought the first 5 minutes of wrestling we got before the first ad break was awesome. And then they came back from the ad break and they just beat the hell out of each other. This was great.
Yeah, they even woke up the crowd at the end when Kaiser's punching him when Sheamus is on his knees, but Sheamus fires up and hits some strikes of his own. Bro kick to win.
Yeah. They said on commentary that he's got his sights set on gold. And they were, again, highlighting this idea he's never won the IC belt. So Sheamus versus Braun is likely to be the next IC title picture.
Which I'm happy about, because Sheamus hasn't done anything since the Pete Dunne match a couple of weeks ago. And yeah, him versus Bron Breakker, that is a feud I can get my meaty teeth into.
Absolutely, yeah.
Rhea Ripley cut a pre-filmed promo on Raquel Rodriguez. She wasn't on the episode in person. And she explained how when she broke up Raquel and Liv and cost them the tag titles, that was okay. But when Raquel cost Ripley the victory, although Ripley technically won, that wasn't okay. The character, I'm getting a bit sick of Rhea Ripley.
Yeah. I don't blame her at all. I think we needed to have moved past this Liv Morgan thing probably 2 months ago, but we're still here. So I'm kind of over it now. I'm kind of numb. When Rhea Ripley's cutting this promo, I was so numb to everything that she said because I'm not interested. I've seen her beat up Liv. I've seen her beat up Raquel. So I'm just sort of numb to the whole thing.
But also, this one didn't feel like a babyface promo.
I thought it did.
I felt it came off as like a hypocritical. I didn't buy her justification.
No.
For now being like, Raquel, you're the worst.
Yeah.
I feel it came across quite, hypocritical. The Sami Jey Uso bit was next. Gunther had a pre-filmed promo on Cody Rhodes. Of course, they're doing the SmackDown match where he teams with Kaiser against Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes.
Mm-hmm. Called Cody a gutless champion.
Zelina Vega took on Ivy Nile. Ivy Nile won. It was mostly to have the minor people of other factions fight on the outside. The Creeds destroyed Cruz del Toro and Whack 'Em Wild.
This was one of those, we're kind of talking about the lack of wrestling that's on Raw now that it's not 3 hours. This had, I would argue, less than 30 seconds of wrestling before it went to its first ad break. And then it came back and had about a minute, and then they went to the finish.
Yeah, Zelina Vega hits the dive. You get the slow-mo replay of the dive as it goes to break.
Yep.
Comes back pin.
Comes back, and it's Vega making her comeback, and they went to the finish. The Creed stopped Vega from hitting the code red, and then Ivy hit a swinging Uranagi. Not much of a match, not a lot of crowd heat.
At least America made one.
Yeah, that's true. It's very true. What's your only women's match on the card?
Then we get Jimmy and Jey in the locker room bit we've spoken about. Seth Rollins comes out.
Oh, yeah, he did.
And I'm like, he looks annoying again. Because last couple of weeks, just wearing all black. But he comes out here, and I described him as a drug dealer you could beat up. Any drug dealer you could just beat up. Yeah. Usually they're quite intimidating people. Not this guy.
No.
And he comes out, and I'm just like, oh, God, he's going to start like... But he didn't. He cut a serious promo saying how he likes, like this...
I'm on a monster hunt.
This violent side of him that's been awakened.
Yep, I'm on a monster hunt, so you've actually woken up a monster. The monster I was hunting for was the one that was inside of me, and you've woken him up. And now I'm like really excited to come and beat you up.
No pompous conducting of the crowd, no laughing.
He did laugh when he went backstage, though, as he was going after Reed. You did hear him go, as he was walking towards him. It's like the pull string. Just you reach that portion of his catchphrases.
Got caught on something that he walked past. But I still liking this Seth.
Me too. I'm loving Bronson Reed, though, because Bronson Reed was Bronson Reed appeared on the screen, and he said, I told Adam Pearce that I would not attack you in the building. But guess what? I'm outside of the building. So do you want to come and have a fight?
Yeah,
and
the parking lot.
And says like, yeah. So Seth throws down the microphone and he storms to the back as he's walking to the back. And then they just had a little scrap. And it was great.
So in that walk to the back, I don't know if you picked up on this. I didn't put it in my review. I couldn't quite find the way to describe it. Seth Rollins has got this big blue reflective jacket on.
Mm-hmm.
He takes off the jacket as he's walking up the ramp to go outside. And I'm pretty sure underneath that jacket is the same blue reflective jacket.
Hold on, let me get... What do you mean?
He's wearing the same item of clothing underneath his clothing. It's like when Ken removes the sunglasses and he's got the sunglasses underneath.
Oh, Bron Breakker did cut a promo for the socials. You asked what happened to him.
There he is. While you're finding that, I'll just recap what happened. Pearce is screaming like, don't go out there. And security get sort of thrown around in the hubbub. And Seth stomps Bronson Reed onto the hood of a car.
Yep.
Okay,
right,
Seth.
here we go.
Oh, they cut it out.
Oh, I'm going to have to go on Discovery Plus. Bear with me.
Seth stomps Bronson Reed on the car bonnet. And like Seth's walking over to the camera like, yeah, see that? And Bronson stands up behind him.
In the background, rises up. It was so cool.
And they have a bit more of a scuffle. Seth gets in a production truck. And Bronson Reed picks up a trash can, lobs it.
Absolutely. He yeeted it.
He yeeted that trash can. He gets up there and he hits a Death Valley driver off the back of the production truck, through some tables. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, we're nearly there. I've got it right here. Here we go. So here's Seth storming to the back.
Yeah.
I'll put the brightness up so we can see it a bit easier.
And he's taken off the...
Oh, you're absolutely right, he did! Oh, you're absolutely right! Watch this. Watch it. Here you go. There's the blue jacket.
Yeah.
There's the blue jacket.
He's out the ring.
And he
takes off.
Unzips. And there's another blue jacket.
One.
It's a smaller jacket underneath.
I think it's more... It's
a shirt.
It's a shirt version of the jacket.
So he has a blue jacket, and underneath that is a shirt made of the same material and is the same colour.
Yeah. It just looked quite funny.
What a bell end.
Tessitore later on says, off the back of that, Seth was taken to a local medical facility.
Local medical centre.
Centre?
Yeah.
For back issues.
The bad back returns.
So I reckon that is going to be the story of the match at Crown Jewel. Seth's going to have to fight through injury and it probably helps Bronson win.
Yeah. Or he hits a Falcon Arrow off a superplex.
After that, Miz goes to apologise to R-Truth backstage because Miz, despite embracing his more heel side recently, the Wyatt Six have turned up and he's got big regrets.
I actually quite like this. I'm not into Miz and R-Truth feuding. I'm less into the fact that Pete Dunne is going to find himself involved in all of this as well. But I like the idea of Miz being like, I thought it was a really good idea to have the Final Testament help me out, but now I don't want the Wyatts after me, so I think you and I should get back together.
And American Alpha, who are just by them, say, I said that right, American Alpha?
Alpha Academy.
Alpha, I keep doing this. I just want you back, Jason Jordan, in the ring.
So Brandon, our moderator, thinks it's not a blue jacket, it's a waistcoat. So he was actually not wearing a jacket over a shirt. He was just wearing a waistcoat over a shirt. So it's a waistcoat that's the same color. But let's just see the replay.
I don't know if we got to...
I see what you're saying.
It looks like the sleeves
of the
are
shirt
underneath.
Let's see how he takes it off.
Still stupid.
Let's see how he takes this off.
Still a ridiculous outfit.
Zip, zip.
That's...
Oh,
I think Brandon's right.
I think Brandon's onto something here.
Don't care, though.
Yeah. What a bell end.
So, Alpha Academy tell R-Truth, don't trust him. And R-Truth's like, hey, let me talk to Miz for a second. And R-Truth actually is going to, okay, let's get back together. And Miz is like, oh, great. And R-Truth slaps him down to the ground. It's quite funny. And he's like, good luck with the Wyatts. You're going to die.
And there's a Miz is basically, I'm now stuck in a faction I don't want to be a part of.
Which, is that how they just keep accumulating members of the Final Testament?
Well, they've just lost one.
Yeah. R-Truth walks off, and he walks past Pete Dunne, and he goes, hey, Butch.
Yes, that can lead to a nice Pete Dunne versus Truth match.
Mm-hmm. Then we got the number one container ship for the tag team titles, LWO versus War Raiders versus New Day. I thought this was a really fun match.
Me too.
Unfortunately, the crowd didn't care.
My favourite moment of this crowd not caring is they did a spot where everyone hit a move and they all laid down and the crowd was silent. And then there's about a few beats and then suddenly there's like, oh no, this is where we're supposed to chant, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And so there's a small smattering of this is awesome chants because it's a Pavlovian response to seeing a double down that is when you do the chant.
The this is awesome chant is a bit tired anyway, but to go from nothing, to go from no crowd reaction to this is awesome. Oh, that's...
My bigger thing with this match, because I thought this match was great.
Yeah.
Why were Joe Tessitore and Wade Barrett upset with Xavier Woods for going to stop Rey Mysterio getting in the ring?
Because he wasn't on the same page as Kofi Kingston.
But he made the right choice.
He made a choice?
He made
Did he
a
make
choice.
The right choice?
I take that back. He made a choice. But it wasn't a wild choice to make. What happened is that Kofi set up to do their... What's the move called?
Kill with daylight.
Kill with daylight. And Woods sees Rey Mysterio getting in the ring on the other side. So he's like, oh, I'll go and stop him because otherwise he'll either break up the move or break up the pin. And so he goes there. And Joe Tessitore and Wade Barrett are like, what is he doing? Oh, they were about to hit it. What is this guy playing? And like, he's stopping someone from stopping them from doing a move. That's actually a really logical thing to do.
Yeah, and I like, because it's not a big heel turn moment. Again, it's...
But even Kofi's like, what are you doing, man?
Well, I don't mind Kofi behaving like that, because Kofi is like, let's hit this move. Kofi's got it all set up. I think it's Dragon Lee on his knee. and Woods is going to jump off the top rope and hit the thing. But Woods is like, no, I'm going to get rid of that guy over there first, who may or may not affect what we're doing over here. Whereas Kofi's like, I've done all of this work to set up this move. We've got to be on the same page. It's not being on the same page that's the issue.
Which actually ties in nicely for the start of the match, when Woods just would not tag Kofi in.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, I've got this. Let me do this. Let me do my plan.
Yeah. It's a really...
I'm liking it.
Yeah, I like it a lot. And also, Woods blocked Ray getting a hot tag to Dragon Lee early on, and the crowd are like, boo! And Woods is like, what? This is what do you want me to do? I thought that was really well done.
Yeah.
But ultimately, that little miscommunication, or not being on the same page, ended up down the line of Kofi getting pinned by the War Raiders.
Yeah, so LWO had the 619 set up, and as Ray ran the ropes to hit the 619, Chad Gable appeared from nowhere, and he grabbed Ray and put him in the ankle lock. And then the War Raiders hit their move for the win. I think they pinned Dragon Lee. Or did they pin Kofi?
They pinned Kofi.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it'd be War Raiders versus JD McDonough and Finn Balor.
They're tag champs, yes.
I think, are they? Are we sure? Who do you think wins that?
War Raiders.
I feel like the War Raiders too. Surely.
Surely. Yeah.
After that, we've got Miz is shouting at Adam Pearce backstage.
Before we get into that whole angle there also sets up very nicely Ray versus Chad Gable, which I guarantee you will be a lot of callbacks to SummerSlam 2002, Ray versus Kurt.
Yes. Miz is now shouting at Adam Pearce to get security to protect him against the Wyatt Six. And Karrion Kross walks in and says, like, hey, Miz, let's go find Bo Dallas right now. Let's do it before the end of the show, or I'll break your legs.
Well, what he said was, he said, Miz, you need to find Uncle Howdy before the end of the show, or I'll break your legs.
I thought, wow, this is 20 minutes to the end of the show.
Yeah, he didn't give him a lot of time.
And we never see what happens.
So there was a social clip that was shown of New Day arguing backstage and the parking lot by a bus, and Miz gets kidnapped by the Wyatt Six. And in a separate social clip, this is the victim of the lack of 3 hour Raw, is that so much of it's Vince Russo booking TNA. I've only got a 1 hour show, but I've got 2 hours worth of material. In a separate social clip, Karrion Kross gets informed that Miz has been kidnapped, and he goes like, oh, so he's probably dead then.
Yeah. It's really funny. That's him and Scarlett in the hotel room.
Yeah. Really good. Like, this is the most I've enjoyed Karrion Kross since his return to WWE. Yeah. I'd actually say since his debut in NXT, this is the most I've enjoyed Karrion Kross.
And it's because he looks more like Sullivan. I think his delivery of lines is really good.
So funny.
Like, but not just funny. When he was talking to Miz, like, I need you to go find this and do this. And then he shouted. And he went back. I was like, this is a good acting performance.
I think this is great. Like, mob boss Karrion Kross.
Mob boss Karrion Kross.
That's a Julia Donaldson book.
Yeah, really good. Then we get the Jimmy and Jey stuff, which we've covered in the car park, where they see Sami talking to Solo. And the main event was Dominik Mysterio versus Damien Priest. Surprise. And it's a number one container ship match, really, for Gunther. And Priest beats up Mysterio a lot. And then Dom just manages to get on top, and we go to ad break. We come back, and Priest gets back on top of Dom.
Yeah.
So we don't see any of Dom getting offense, really. Couple of minutes later, Judgment Day start interfering, but there is no Finn Balor. And Priest destroys them all, gets a chair, beats them all up. Carlito, JD McDonough. So I guess it's only 2 people plus Dom.
Yeah. And then he gets distracted by Liv and Raquel, and Dom rolls him up and gets the win.
Which is quite fun.
I really like it. I think it's a really fun end. It sets up a nice thing I was talking about earlier with Finn can now be jealous that he couldn't beat Damien Priest, but he's quite fixated on not being able to beat Damien Priest, and he knows he can beat Damien Priest. And now Dominik Mysterio, a guy that he was quite openly being like, you'll never be a world champion, has beaten Damien Priest, a former world champion. So it sets up quite nicely some jealousy with Finn Balor and also Finn versus Priest again.
Yeah. Yeah. Which not so much into, but I think the Gunther Dom stuff could be really fun.
That's what I'm most excited for. It does lead to Gunther versus Dominik Mysterio for the World Championship, which I think is hilarious. What I did not need to then see was a 5-minute burial of the Judgment Day as Damien Priest just beat them all up again and beat up Dominik Mysterio some more.
I feel like you could have you could have shown the Miz kidnapping angle.
Yeah.
As opposed to this. Or I don't think this is a good end to a go-home show for Crown Jewel. I think end on the Jimmy and Jey seeing Sami clip.
Bingo. That's actually a really good way to end this show.
But yeah, Damien beat up Carlito, beat up Tom, and we go off air.
And I've seen Damien Priest beat up the Judgment Day a lot. So it's not even like send the crowd home happy, because it's send the crowd home having seen something they've seen 1,000 times over. This did very little for me as a post-match angle, but this setting up Dominik versus Gunther, I'm very much in for.
Yeah. Overall, I gave this episode 60%, which is very low for what this has been, what like Raw has been so far. But it's, that's essentially 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call that a bad rating.
No.
But when you dip below 3 out of 5, that's a bad show.
I'd say this is your very typical good episode of Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
Which are, I mean, in fairness to them, and I think it's a testament to this new era and a testament to the Triple H booking style, is pretty much what you get on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
It is so rare you would dip below that 3 out of 5 standard. You would very rarely get a 2 out of 5 episode. So, yeah, it was just another good week of Raw.
Whereas before, I would genuinely say the standard was 1.5 out of 5.
Absolutely, yeah. If you got a 3 out of 5 episode, you were like, go out of your way to at least see 2 of the segments.
We've got the poll up right now, so you can have your vote on what you thought of the episode. But let's say a big thank you to our wonderful Pledgehammers on Patreon. Greater than great, Master Nate.
Queen of the Casino Gauntlet, Kira Soltari.
The movie Luke has never seen, Zelina.
The Torrential Tribute, Spencer Vorhagen.
And a big shout out to the mods who make the comments such a lovely place to hang out in. Andy,
Ian,
James,
John,
Les,
and because their names are never in this list, but they do deserve your praise, Brandon and Mod Mother Jenna.
Cheap pops in the comments. Thank you, everyone there. Go over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk, of course. That's where you can get your own shout out on this show and loads of other exclusive content. Last call for Chat Gables. WrestleTalk.com/support. Mike says, this very well could have been the least compelling episode of Raw this year. Even with the Bloodline stuff, it felt like nothing of consequence actually happened. And, of course, next to nothing for the women yet again. A huge shrug of a show.
A shrug is kind of a nice way. It feels like it's a damning way to describe the show, but it's not incorrect. But it's a shrug of like, hey, it was still good.
Good Seth Bronson angle. Really good Bloodline development.
Like the Bloodline stuff.
And number 1 container ship. If the crowd was hotter, I think we'd have a different view on this.
I don't know if I would agree with that. I still think people would look at this being like, I'll tell you why, it's because nothing was built for Crown Jewel, which is the pay-per-view that's this weekend.
Geordie bus driver Harry Iveson has become a member. God, he's an OG. Talking of OG bloodlines.
That's going back to the T-show all days.
Hi, fellas. Hope you are well and good. Did you not see Miz in the background being abducted by the Wyatts? Crying with laughter face emoji.
We certainly did.
Scuba Steve, 1 month member. Triple H does a great job with creativity, but a poor job with timing. Not everything needs to be stretched to WrestleMania.
Or SummerSlam.
The Guilty Hat. It might be me filling in the gaps, but I really appreciate that The Miz had a feud with The Fiend years ago and now wants absolutely nothing to do with the Wyatt Six. Man is not about that life. Also, I get people's hesitance, but I'm starting to like Cross.
Yeah.
Join the club.
Join the club, man.
Join the mob.
Whether or not they'll tie this into his feud with The Fiend all those years ago, or he is just concerned because he did see Chad Gable was murdered by the Wyatt Six, and it's like, I don't want to get involved with that.
Yeah. Kevin, I really thought the former world champion was going to be Jinder.
He's a former WWE champion. Come on, Kevin.
I guess the quarterly 3-week push became a quarter push for Bronson Reed.
I'd say it's just a push.
Well, we're going to go back over the 2024 3-count predictions soon. It'd be interesting to see what you had.
I don't think my Bronson Reed 3-week push comes until after Jinder goes.
Also, Seth had a smaller jacket under his jacket. I actually laughed at Truth Miz Final Testament stuff. Hashtag Woods is not right. Yeah, all the mid-card stuff is popping quite nicely.
Yeah.
And last chat for today. Two more. Nala Henley Nispandi is a 6-month Memberg. Hi guys, genuinely forgot I have a Memberg chat. Hope everything is good. I ended up getting 95% for that assignment about the history of video games.
Well done.
Awesome.
Very nice.
And Roach Senpai says, I'm trying to understand what the point of JD is. Is that Judgment Day, or JD McDonough?
Judgment Day, I think it is, because they then say when one of them wins.
Even when one of them wins, they still look like losers. JD and Finn are champions, but pretty sure we forgot they are. Damien needs to move on from them, and quick.
I think that Judgment Day are victims of needing to keep Damien and Rhea looking strong. And in the process of needing the Terror Twins to look strong, then Judgment Day have to look weak because they need to be beaten up all the time.
They're the Chitauri.
Oh, but who's Loki? Oh,
I guess Liv.
But Liv gets beaten up. So she got beaten up last week by...
Loki gets beaten up.
But yeah, okay, but Loki... I was actually Thanos.
Rhea is just going to get... Rhea is Hulk in
but
this.
Who's the Thanos?
Like, this isn't an exhausristic comparison.
You can't just
I'm just saying.
You can't just say they're the Chitauri and then have nothing else to back up your claim.
They are fodder. They're cannon fodder for the big babyface Avengers to beat up.
Yes.
That was the extent of my comparison.
Oh, right, but the Chitauri are minions for a greater being.
Liv Morgan.
Liv Morgan's one of the Chitauri.
No, Liv Morgan is Loki.
No, she is not. Absolutely.
She's just come in.
She is not. She is definitely on the same level as the rest of the Chitauri.
She's the champion.
She just has a belt. She's a Chitauri with a special helmet.
Let's see what the poll result is.
It looks like it was on track to be the same as you, but it is slightly lower. 58% thumbs up, 35% thumbs in the middle.
Well, please go over to the WrestleTalk news channel now to watch the news episode that went up earlier. And go over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk because we've got the brand new episode of our TNA Samoa Joe versus Kurt Angle series going live tomorrow. And it's so long. It's 4.5 hours.
4.5 hours.
But for now, I've been Ollie Davis. This has been Luco and DAD. Jam that jam.
Jam that jam.